you both for joining me for this. Today, I really want to talk to you about how you incorporated the experience of MS into your marriage and into your lives, and how you have talked about it with each other over the years. So, Myra, can you start by describing for me what your relationship is with MS?
Well, it's evolved over the years for sure.
Huh?
Initially, when I was diagnosed, I was scared to pieces because I had only known one person that had had it, and he died pretty young, and it was just complications from it. And they didn't have a lot of medication at that time. So it was, a pretty scary thought for me. But I had a wonderful neurologist in Kearney, Nebraska, out in the middle of the state, and he reassured me and explained the whole disease. And back then you couldn't Google things and look it all up. So I had to rely on his information, and so he did help me a lot in not feeling so scared. And once they gave me some medicine, the optic neuritis that I had went away pretty quickly. And so then over the next 20 years, I had a few exacerbations, but nothing serious, nothing big. I would take some medicine, it would go away. And I lived my life normally. I didn't really think about MS. I didn't talk about it with anyone. But then about 15 to 20 years ago, I got the MS hug. And that was kind of a telltale sign that I was going to start progressing. And so now there are days when I hate it, and I just scream and holler, and I have a little fit, and then I get over it. And then I was like, pick myself up by my bootstraps and I keep going. The alternative is to sit and do nothing. So I try to do my best. And of course, Steve is wonderful because he does he does anything I need him to do. But it's disturbing because I can't do it myself, and I want to. And I was a teacher and, used to juggle, 47 things at once in a classroom, where now one thing seems like a big deal.
Steve, what about you? How would you describe your relationship with MS?
Initially, the relationship with MS for me was in passing. But as time has progressed, that relationship has gone from in passing type of relationship to a partnership with the disease, working with her. It's a partnership I know I'd rather not have, and I know she wouldn't either, but it's one we have to accept. And unfortunately, right now, the situation we're in, the pandemic has changed our life a lot, where MS, the relationship with MS, it has come to the forefront because we have to think about how are we going to do things and avoid exposure to COVID-19. Can we go do this? Can we go do that?
I really love the way you describe it as a partnership with MS, that you're really having to work with each other and with the disease all the time to make it work on a day-to-day basis. I think that's a wonderful way to think about it. It's also interesting to me in the days of this pandemic that although it has created a lot more challenges for all of us, one of the things we're learning is that in some ways, people who've been living with MS are better prepared than some of the rest of us. I wanted to ask you a follow-up question, Steve, and that is, you've described the partnership and your relationship working with Myra to handle the disease, but do you feel that you have a relationship with MS that is separate from that partnership, where you are having to deal with this disease in ways that are unique to you?
Part of my relationship with MS and with Myra is, where do I step in? Where do I step out? Where do I share the responsibilities and duties of living our lives? Yes, I can do the laundry. I can do the house cleaning. With her help, I can do cooking and things like that. But that puts all the weight on the wrong side, or just one side of this scale. And we want the scale to be balanced. And then how do we also incorporate it with our friends, with our daughter, with traveling and things like that.
How do you think MS has affected that partnership, that wonderful partnership you have with Steve over the years?
Normally, when we would do a trip or something, or if we're going to go out to dinner, or, just your normal everyday things, then we would talk about it together and decide, and we would go do it, yay or nay. But now it has to be really, really well thought out. And it can get thrown out the window at the last minute. For example, Sunday we were to have our dinner group, and we've been doing a backyard distancing, order food and have it delivered or go get it, and then, share in our backyard. And I've had a problem with my back, and so I couldn't get down the stairs and had to cancel that night. And so those are the kinds of things, though, that with MS, it can happen, on a certain day, you're just not up for it. And so now our relationship is more about MS, when I used to not, I used to really be adamant that this disease is not going to define me. But unfortunately, as you get older and you progress, then you have to have that be a kind of the core of your planning. And so the planning has to be really pretty exact, with the knowledge, though, that at the last minute it could be different. So you're planning, but then you have to also be really flexible in the same time.
But it sounds as though with all of your planning and talking, that you've really tried to take MS into account all the time, because you, as you say so eloquently, you have to take it into account, but that you don't want it to take more away from your life than it needs to, or force your life to get smaller than it needs to.
We really are very purposeful in trying to fill our time with some fun activities that we can do locally and not always worry about traveling somewhere. And, I have a scooter now that can get me from point A to point B, so I'm not exhausted when I get there. And so that has helped immensely. But we try to research and do some things, go to a winery or, whatever, and try to do fun things that will get you out of the house, keep your mind engaged, and it makes you feel like you're still living.
How did your communication about the disease evolve? How did you get from that place where you weren't really talking about it much at all to now making it a focus of your planning and prioritizing and attention?
At the beginning, we didn't talk much about it. We recognized the fact that she had it, but she wasn't having symptoms, so we really had a lot of time where we didn't speak about it at all.
We didn't really need to.
We didn't need to. It was, I guess, the growth of this is kind of like watching rust grow on steel. You see a spot of rust on the bumper of your car, and you think it's no big deal, and you don't watch it. And then all of a sudden, it might be 5 years later, and all of a sudden the whole bumper is rusted out, and you're going, what the heck happened here? Well, that's where the conversations hit. Things started occurring. We took a trip to New York City. Our daughter was working in New York City one summer, and she wanted to take us all around and show us the sights and stuff like that. And we had to walk, in our daughter's terms, a few blocks over to see this or whatever it was we're going to do. Well, those few blocks in the middle of July in New York City
We're actually a mile.
it was a mile, and nowhere to stop, and no shade or anything like that. And it really affected Myra. And, that's where the reality finally came that something's going on here. We need to really start having some discussions, because her life, her quality of life was changing.
I didn't tell her anything that was happening with me. And so this came out of the blue then when we're walking in New York and I can't make it. And I actually broke down and started crying. It was so bad because my feet were dragging, and I eventually was diagnosed with foot drop. And so because of the heat, that my foot was dragging, and Steve and her both were like, what's wrong? Why are you doing this? I mean, they didn't think it was MS.
Right.
And so I hadn't told them anything. Well, that's not a good recommendation to do that.
As your conversations evolved and grew more complex over time, as they needed to, um, were you talking about the facts, the symptoms, the disease, the changes, as well as your feelings about it? Or was it really more practical, problem solving kinds of conversations?
Well, this is probably a little bit more of a problem that I have because I never talked about it early on. You know, he would maybe come into the house and I'm kind of having a little meltdown and at dinner time because I'm trying to, make dinner and I'm hot and now I can't, my feet won't move. And, I'm really irritable when he walks in. And so, he really didn't know what to think. I think he knew it was MS, but yet how could he help? And so then we went to a 5-day can-do program, and that changed everything because of all of the different health professionals that we visited with. One was a psychologist. And, what came out of our session was that I need to talk about it more. I need to bring it up. You have to speak up and you have to say, I can't do this right now. This is not going to work for me. You're going to have to finish it or we'll have to go get takeout or something.
So, Steve, you said before that you're not much of a talker and you don't talk about your feelings very much. But over the years, what have you done with those feelings? Because I'm sure as you watched your wife struggle or encounter greater difficulties or things that you couldn't magically fix, that was very painful for you. And how have you learned to communicate about those feelings and deal with them?
You go into this with a diagnosis of MS. You don't know a lot of people that have it, so you feel like you're in it alone. And going to the Can-Do event that we went to in Denver, it opened me up that I'm not the only one. And we've established some friendships that came out of that we can visit with separately or together. And we've maintained that relationship. And how long ago was that we went?
2014 that we did that.
So it's been 7 years,
Yeah,
6 years.
There are 12 people that we're still in contact with. And many of them are for him to speak to about being a support partner.
It re-energizes me whenever I have those conversations because, I don't know, I just come out of it feeling good, knowing that friends that I have that are dealing with this are doing well or not doing so well, and that maybe the conversations I had with them have supported them in what's going on in their lives.
It sounds as though there is comfort in knowing that they get it, even without spending a lot of time talking about it. So you can just feel comfortable and secure and safe in their presence and then enjoy their company in other ways. Do you have any tips for other couples who are either starting on this journey that you guys have been on for such a long time, for other couples, but also for other support partners that you would like to share about communication or about your feelings or anything else that's important to you?
We talk about support partner, person with MS. And I think we're losing in the conversations at times that the person with MS more than likely is also a support partner. She's my number one support partner. I said this to her the other day. She's the canary in the coal mine for me. She sees my emotions changing. She sees me becoming more quiet, more reserved, less outgoing than I normally am. And she can ask the question, what's going on? What's bugging you? This partner in this relationship has two hats they're wearing. They're dealing with the disease and they're dealing with my emotions or whatever it might be.
I think that goes back to what you said about the balance in your partnership, right? If your relationship is a healthy, balanced one, You should each feel like you're giving, and you should each feel like you're receiving in that partnership. Otherwise, it's out of whack.
MS is not the, how you say it, end all of everything. If you go into it with your eyes as open as they can be and understand you need to plan and not shut the door to any opportunity. If you have the chance to go somewhere or do something, do it. Don't hole yourself up in the house, never, peeking out the door. Living your life as if nothing has changed, but be willing to accommodate. Myra mentioned getting a scooter. Well, prior to that, she started with a cane and then the leg brace and things like that. And then we understand how can we accommodate those things into what we want to do. And the big thing too for us is you got to allow a lot of time. It's not a spur of the moment thing. If we're going to travel by plane, we're up very early the next morning getting to the airport so we can get the scooter unloaded, so we can do this, work with the ticket agent, do that, get to the gate, get through security and all those things, because this has added another level of complexity in how we live our lives.
You have to drop your pride, and that is such a hard thing for all of us to do. If it's keeping you safe and it's keeping you in life, and you're able to go out and do things that are fun because now you have a mobility device, go for it. I have totally gotten over what are people thinking. And I mean, there are many, many times that I'm out in public and I'm on my scooter and people divert their eyes. They don't want to look at you. I don't give it much thought. I mentioned his patience. He just never acts like it's an imposition to help me do something. And I guess that has helped so much, and that is part of his personality.
You actually help him to be a very effective support partner, but also to take care of him in his role as a support partner. And you do that in a lot of different ways. And one of the things that you do to try and help Steve is to be very clear in your messaging, as you mentioned, about what you need or what you don't need at a point in time. You were open to using mobility aids, which benefit both of you, not just you, because it made it possible for you to do all those adventures that you talk about. And I think you're always mindful of the impact on Steve. And I think that that's a key message for couples, that the two of you are living with this disease together. So thank you so much, as always, for talking to me about things that I know are very important to you and personal to you. I think you did a wonderful job. So thank you very much.
You know,
Thank you.